This is our first ever cross-chapter BISA collaboration. Also welcome our Ambassador of Ireland to South Africa, Fionnuala Gilsenan. Welcome to your first BISA webinar. And so we've got loads of content to get through today. So I'll quickly run through the agenda. So we're going to start off with an update from our ambassador. There's a lot of developments going on at home in Ireland and beyond. So yeah, here's if you can see the agenda here. So we're going to leave this on screen because we've got a lot of content to get through, a lot of exciting stuff going on across continents and within SA. So after we hear from our ambassador, then I'm going to give you a quick update on the new developments happening in BISA Joburg for the rest of the year. Then I'm going to follow with some exciting new business and trading updates. Some of you will heard of them already, between Ireland and South Africa, going both directions. So that's kind of a nice little theme for today. And then my co-hosts will take you through what BISA Cape Town are doing. Before we're going to hear from two of our Cape Town members. We've got John McGrath and Dianne Cameron Parker here. And we're going to wrap up then within the hour from our co-host. So I shall pass the baton over to my co-host, Mr. Frank Gormley. He's the chairman of BISA Cape Town, and he's been instrumental in forging this new collaboration between BISA chapters and the relationships around all the way up to Kenya. So thanks for making all this happen, Frank, and then over to you.
It's a pleasure. Thanks very much, Johnny. Just want to talk a little bit about the ambassador by way of introduction. Ambassador, very welcome. Her Excellency Fionnuala Gilsenan arrived in South Africa in October 2019 and received her credentials from the President Ramaphosa on the 2nd of December. The ambassador is ambassador to South Africa, but is also responsible for Botswana, Lesotho, Zimbabwe, and Mauritius. So she's quite a wide brief, and even though she's only arrived a relatively short period of time, 8 months ago, she has hit the ground running 10 months ago and has been extremely busy and forged strong links already. She previously had worked as ambassador to Ethiopia, and there was also responsible for Timor and Tanzania. So I noticed that she was in the top 750 Horn of Africa authority, as one of the authorities on the Horn of Africa. So she's a wide knowledge and is a great asset to us as ambassador of this country. She's the chairperson, she's the champion of women's rights. She has already worked hard on being very active in gender-based violence and in confronting it in a very active way. She's involved in women in leadership and also is a great promoter of human rights. So we have a great leader amongst us, amongst the Irish people in South Africa, and she has already made a great contribution, and I look forward to a great contribution from her in the future. So without further, can I please welcome our ambassador, Fionnuala Gilsenan.
Frank, thank you very much for that very nice introduction. And just to say, first of all, that I'm really delighted to be joining this webinar, and I really appreciate the fact that you and Johnny and others working in the Cape Town and the Johannesburg branch chapters have put this together. And as you say, it's a really nice thing, I think, that we can do this easily. It's one of maybe the few benefits of us living in this particular situation that we're living in at the moment, that we're able to actually bring people together who normally would have to get on flights and spend quite a lot of time coming together in order to spend some time talking and exchanging ideas. Today, what I'm hoping to discuss with you, and just to say to the organisers, I can't start my video because the host has disabled it. So just in case it will be of any benefit to people to be able to see me, sometimes these webinars work better if you can see a human face. So if we can do that, it would be great. If not, you'll just have to get my disembodied voice instead. Well, what I'm hoping to talk about today really is, as Johnny says, you know, I want to talk about the situation in Ireland, a little bit about the situation in South Africa, and then, you know, to talk about taking on the challenges that we have ahead of us. And I don't want to speak for too long because I don't think that that's necessarily particularly interesting, but also, you know, it eats up the time that perhaps will be better spent with us having a conversation and just some questions and answers. When I was preparing for this webinar today, one of the very striking statistics that I came across is that they estimate that 95% of the global economy will be in recession this year. So I think when we're all looking at how tough things are for us in our various roles and our various businesses, it's to remember that we are very truly not alone. I mean, that's really the situation right across the globe. I think that's my video now. Great. Okay, well, hopefully you can see me. So anyway, just to talk a little bit about the situation in Ireland, I think at this point we're at a moment where we're moving away really from damage limitation, and that was the space that we were in since the middle of March right through to, we'll say, the end of May and into June. But now we're really at the point where we're moving into looking at ways to stimulate the Irish economy and undo some damage that's been done by the pandemic. So just in recent days, those of you who follow Irish politics closely will know that we agreed to a 5 billion package, which encompasses 5 billion euros. So that's a huge economic stimulus that's being injected into the Irish economy. And there's a whole series of measures involved in that, things like cuts to the VAT rate, putting in place and keeping some employment supports, plans to deliver very specific training, particularly to young people, a focus on apprenticeships, and then an ongoing set of packages of business supports to ensure that companies that are viable, have just been badly disrupted by this pandemic, are able to manage. And then, of course, some of you may have heard about stay and spend tax rebates. So that will encourage people to stay in Ireland over this period for two reasons. One, there are risks if many people travel, and then, of course, the second is to support the domestic tourism economy. You'll also may be aware that we had to delay the kind of fourth phase of opening the economy. Again, that was as a result of you know, worries about the resurgence of the virus and needing to manage that carefully. So I think the government is going to have to, you know, maintain a kind of a balancing act between opening up the economy and making sure that there isn't a resurgence of the virus. What is very good, though, is, you know, we had this pandemic unemployment payment, which was really, you know, a way of keeping people in reasonably good condition, if you like, in terms of their income. And that at the beginning of May, the numbers who were on that, now it's dropped back by about 52% of recipients, or it's fallen by 52%, the number of recipients who are receiving that unemployment payment, and it now stands at a little bit over 280,000. So I suppose what we feel is that at least when the economy opened back up again, there was a degree of reboundability there, which was you know, which is quite heartening, I suppose, and that probably points to the fact that we were in pretty good condition before going into this. The other really interesting thing that's been happening in Ireland at the moment is just the formation of the government, for the programme for government, and the very unusual situation of having a coalition between Fionnuala and Fine Gael. So that brings together, you know, two of the big mainstream parties together with the Green Party. So there's a very interesting program of government put together. We look at it, it's very broad based, to my mind. It's very forward looking, it's very progressive. There's focus on the green transition and the importance of building an economy that's you know, that's not making a big adverse contribution to climate change. There's also a big focus on the digital transition, with a continued, I would say, a continued commitment to invest in research, science, innovation. And of course, Ireland has been very successful in attracting FDI to Ireland because we have a very well-educated young population, because we welcome immigrants, particularly from the EU, but further afield. Many of you will know young South Africans who are now working in Ireland. But I think that this government is going to have an even stronger focus on the small and medium-sized enterprises and really making sure that the domestic business sector is promoted and protected. So some of the changes in the way government is structured reflect some of these policy shifts. So you now see that the Department for Higher Education is combined with science and innovation. So that's really reinforcing that link between third level institutions and research, science, innovation, and, you know, that whole process of incubating new companies that are high tech. The Department for Climate Change is combined with transport and natural resources, so you can see very obvious links there. And again, in trying to build a green economy or a greener economy, or at least maybe transferring the green from what it would have been associated with very strongly with agriculture, and bringing a climate change and protecting the environment more strongly into that. Although that's also been a very significant feature of the last programme for government, but now I think that more so because the Greens are part of the coalition. And then the last one that's just interesting to note is that enterprise, trade and employment has again just changed a little bit. When Minister Humphreys was here before Christmas, some of you will know it was enterprise, employment and innovation. So that's just shifted a little bit with trade moving out of Department of Foreign Affairs and back into enterprise. So that's you know, a focus on jobs and perhaps a focus on. So I mean that's essentially the way in which the coalition are looking at the job of work that they have. There will be a very, very big emphasis on dealing with the housing crisis, getting the health sector up and running and fit for purpose. And I think COVID has really brought it home to people, the importance of having, you know, a society that's able to look after its most vulnerable. A key thing for Ireland in the next number of years is the fact that the EU has also agreed to a huge stimulus package, generally known as Next Generation EU. So that's bringing together a package worth about 750 billion euros. So absolutely huge, and that's a mix of grants and loans, practically 50-50. So that's important as well for reinforcing the strength of the EU economy and the single market, and ensuring that remains robust, and particularly as we're still facing into the challenges associated with Brexit. And again, if people have questions on that, I'm happy to answer them. So I mean, I won't say very much about South Africa. We're all living here. We all know what's happening. I mean, I think it's quite devastating, the impact of the COVID pandemic and the lockdown. We all know that. We're going to see, you know, very significant increases in poverty and in inequality, and people maybe who are formerly in the middle class will hover maybe on the poverty line or just above the poverty line. And generally people feel that perhaps the economy won't recover to 2019 levels, perhaps until 2023, although it's always possible to upend those predictions if certain things are put in place. And I think there's a broad package of reforms available there, and I suppose the question is, will government be able to find a political space to put those reforms in place? Because I think they're set out very well. The Minister of Finance has set them out very well. I think Business for South Africa has set them out very well. The ANC itself has set them out very well. And I think it's really about finding the political space. So, I mean, certainly the macroeconomic situation, the debt to GDP ratio is going to be a big concern. The modernisation of the network industry, so looking at particularly at electricity, at the ports, at broadband spectrum, you know, these are kind of fundamental network industries that allow the economy to operate. I think everybody feels the need for policy certainty to increase business confidence. And then there's the whole issue of state capacity, which the President addresses on a regular basis. And that, for me, is linked also to tackling corruption and ensuring good governance. I suppose the thing that I feel very, very strongly about is really the need for better education and skills outcomes for young people. I mean, I think that that's going to be really, really key. So just maybe to finish by talking a little bit about how Ireland is working with South Africa and where it kind of intersects with some of the things that I've just spoken about. I mean, a big part of the work that we're doing here is really around education and skills. South Africa is blessed with some really great universities, universities of technology, a TVET system. So I think there's real opportunities for us to link our institutes of higher education together, and we're doing some work on that. As many of you know, we have a scholarships programme that's named in honour of Kader Asmal, and in fact this evening the Alumni Association is hosting an event to encourage young South Africans to apply for a scholarship in Ireland. So we'll be doing that at 6 o'clock, also on the webinar. We're looking at ways to partner with South Africa on research, science and technology. And one of the things that we're working on at the moment with Enterprise Ireland is the idea of an Africa Tech Fund that we hope to pilot here in South Africa, which would allow Irish companies that have a particular technology solution maybe to partner with the South African business and see how they can use technology to maybe improve a business proposition. And we're hoping to do some scoping on that and launch it towards the end of the year. I think another area probably where we have something to offer is policy exchange, particularly looking at our own economic transformation journey, which has been, you know, full of ups and downs, to say the least. So I think we've got something to maybe share there, not least the fact that we had far more recently than we might want to think an IMF programme. I also think our experience of growing our economy within the context of the EU is quite an important story, and not just for South Africa, but I think for the full region. Frank mentioned a number of countries that I cover, and I think when you look at the Southern Africa region and what it has to gain from economic integration, I think that the potential of the African Continental Free Trade Area, in my view, is one of the best opportunities for an economic stimulus post-COVID that you could possibly hope for. And then the other area is looking at our experience in diaspora engagement and what might be shared with South Africa on that. We've just recently also joined the Africa Development Bank, so I think we'll be very interested in seeing what opportunities are there maybe to partner with the bank, what opportunities are there for Irish business people to get involved in projects that have been funded by the bank. And we'll continue to work very closely with Enterprise Ireland on that. And then the last thing I would say is, you know, we have a business network here in South Africa, BISA, and I think there's a lot of energy and dynamism in the leadership of the main chapters. So I think we have to really think about, you know, how do we make this really something that's of great value? How do we network more effectively? And of course, it's quite difficult at the moment, but we have to find ways to do it. And then how do we build that network out more broadly post-COVID, and how do we engage, other people who have an affinity to Ireland, a connection to Ireland, and try and make this network not just of Irish business people in South Africa, but broader than that, to allow us really to move forward on the objectives that we have. So that's, of course, slightly longer than I hoped it would be, but really feel very free to ask any questions that you want, and also to come up with suggestions and proposals on how we might engage more in this manner over the next few months. So I'll hand you back to either Frank or Johnny, I'm not sure, to moderate if there's any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Ambassador. I'll just jump in quick. Yeah, that's great to hear that. I think there's a lot of getting a lot of kind of cautious optimism from yourself, but progressive attitude, and there's a lot of good things that can be done going forward. And I like exactly what you were saying there, about using our network, because I was actually going to mention, kind of in line with saying about stimulating the economy and how the SMEs are going to be so important, that a lot of our members are part of SMEs, and we're here to try and help them and come together and actually stimulate business. And I kind of ties in well with what we're trying to achieve, and with Frank as well in Cape Town. Just two questions I have for you. So the first one is from John Murphy. He's looking to know, what do you think is the impact from the Global Ireland 2025 strategy, particularly on South Africa and Africa? If you want to tackle that first, or you want the two questions at once? Okay, I'll give you the second one while not hearing from you yet. The second one is, do you know, what is your opinion on the future for Irish musicians and artists? There's no future opening in sight at home, other than the COVID payment to artists and musicians. So two very different questions there for you, Ambassador.
Okay, thanks for those. Both very interesting questions. Just on Global Ireland 25, that actually was a policy document that was very much associated with the last government, and of course you know that we haven't changed our Minister for Foreign Affairs, and it was something that the previous Taoiseach felt very strongly about and underlined in a very distinct way in the programme for government. So I think we can see that commitment to Global Ireland 2025 is going to remain very much at the heart of government. And what it means essentially is that, Ireland sees itself still as an open economy, wanting to play its part in the world, wanting to have connections right across the world, and to collaborate in a way that is in keeping with values. And those values are those that are articulated through the UN and through the EU. So they're respect for human rights, promotion of democratic values, transparency, accountability, all of those kinds of values. So that's very much at the heart. So we would want to see some additional embassies opened up in Africa over the next number of months and years, or rather the next years. But I suppose the very big thing that's going to be a focus for us is that we won a non-permanent seat in the Security Council. So we'll be sitting on the UN Security Council for 2021 and 2022. And South Africa just comes off the council at the end of this year, and then we go on to the council. So we've already had a very good video conference with South African side, just kind of downloading from them their experience and expertise. And there's a number of things that we'll be trying to bring forward that they've been working on. But yeah, so I would say that it remains a very important kind of policy platform. In terms of Africa, again, in the programme for government, there's a very clear commitment to deepening the relationship between the EU and Africa, and trying to find ways to build both the trade and political relationship in a way that deals with some of the structural and fundamental challenges that Africa is facing today, not least peace and security. Just on the second question, and Irish music and artists, I think there's no doubt about it, this is a very tough time for artists. So like, it's a tough time for many people, and artists are one of those who are finding it very, very tough. But what I would say again is that I think that during the financial crisis, artists and musicians and so on had a little bit of a challenging time convincing perhaps the authorities that what they did was really important. And I think that after the financial crisis, when Ireland was trying to rebuild its reputation abroad, artists played an important role. And I think that that's fundamentally the way in which we understand the importance of culture and artists within our society. So there is support for them now, and I know the Arts Council got an additional €20 million to support artists in Ireland, and that their creativity is going to have to be brought to bear until the point that we get to that we can safely attend cultural events. And in the meantime, I think we have to look at new and different ways to share our culture. We did a little bit of that ourselves the last few months. We had a very successful event to commemorate the International Day Against Homophobia, where we had an Irish poet and a South African poet, and it was hugely attended. It was about 1,700 people, I think, attended that event. So there are ways in which we can still engage in cultural activities, even though we're in this very difficult situation. Sorry, Johnny, I'm trying also not to take up too much of your time, because I know you've got some quite speakers coming up next, but if there's another question or two, I'm happy to take them. Cool.
Just one more question. We'll try and get to it at the end if we can, but thanks so much for that. We get into the perspective that we haven't really heard from before, and love to hear that about the interconnection between Ireland and here. So that's brilliant. Thanks so much. And just to move on from that then to what we're trying to achieve then at BISA Joburg, and firmly behind the stimulating the economy stage, or we're trying to then jump on the coattails there by launching our new membership of BISA Joburg, hopefully in our newsletter next week. So we're going to offer different tiers of membership, and depending on how we can help address your needs to the membership and new members. So keep an eye out on your inboxes, because we're going to be launching that in about a week's time. And then our first ever members only event is going to be a new 3-part webinar series. So we're going to be focusing on boosting yours and your business's online presence. And we're going to have the series is going to feature some experts from LinkedIn, Google Ads. We're going to have an online networking masterclass. We're going to have a search engine optimization masterclass with some of our in-house experts who are on the call here. So it's in this challenging time for everyone's businesses, we're going to try and help the network boost our own capabilities. And then once the alcohol ban is hopefully lifted here, we're going to try and run a business networking and whiskey tasting evening. And our new friends at Republic of Whiskey, who I'm going to introduce shortly, they are very keen to get involved, so we'll hear about that just now. And finally then this year, we're working really hard to put together a BISA Joburg Business Excellence Awards evening. So we're going to try and put together a safe and in-person event, but clearly, we're at the mercy of some external forces here, but we're going to do our best to make sure it happens, whether it's in person or virtually. But the main aim of the awards is to bring our network together and celebrate success, and push that sustainability kind of agenda as well. So we're thinking about doing awards such as a Sustainable Development Award. We want to appeal to some of the different goals of the Irish government to try and bring together what's happening at home, what's happening here, and we're going to all hopefully work together. So we want to also look at some upcoming Entrepreneurs of the Year and make an award for that, and also the Business Person of the Year. So we're still working on it, so keep an eye again on our social media and our LinkedIn page. And if you have any ideas, get in touch, because we'd love to hear from you, the members. And yeah, so moving on now, I think it's a good time to introduce our first guest while I'm trying to stay on time here. So last month it was announced that a multi-award-winning, Oscar-nominated South African animation house, who are behind 2 of the top 5 grossing South African films ever, and more importantly, feeding the obsessions of my 3-year-old through bringing the Julia Donaldson books, who I'm sure anyone who has kids is aware of, such as Stickman and Snail and the Whales of Life. So thanks to them. Triggerfish is the name of the animation house, and they are expanding their business into Ireland, and it's their first ever international office, and they've opened up in Galway. And to tell us a little bit more about Triggerfish and their move into Ireland is Stuart Forrest, the CEO of Triggerfish. And welcome, Stuart. Are you here?
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, it's a very exciting time. Obviously, it's a difficult time. We're planning to be over by now, and with the quarantine and everything, we've just sent one person, and we've just signed a lease. So we're just going. It's very early days, but so far it's looking very promising, and we're very excited about the potential. I think over the last few years, it's become evident that the industry that we work in South Africa is just too small for us to grow the way we would like to. We've been very active in developing artists. It's our kind of company mission is to bring new voices to the world stage, and we act very much in the mainstream of that. So for a number of years, we've been looking for new writers from around Africa specifically, and we've been packaging them with other creators and doing deals with the likes of Netflix and Disney Plus and HBO Max and Warner's and Disney Junior. So we've got a really great amount of very powerful distribution partners, and there's no ways we can produce all the content that we've developed. So we are currently outsourcing to Dublin, to another studio in Dublin, to France, to China, Malaysia, and we have 170 people in Cape Town. So it's, but we definitely reached the cap, and we've been really so encouraged going over to Ireland, seeing how strong the industry is there. I mean, we were talking about the arts. It is, for me, animation is the composite of all the arts coming together. It incorporates writing and music and acting and design in all its forms, from architecture design to costume design. It really is, it's hard to conceive of a more difficult and more extensive cultural representation of a nation's culture. And on top of that, it's very intertwined with business, finances. You know, there's just it's a hugely challenging field, but incredibly rewarding. Quite recession-proof normally. The cinemas obviously closing has given the industry a huge blow at the moment, but the streaming services are finding that they are really taking off, and they've increased in value and in subscriptions. So it is a really good time to be working primarily with streaming services, which we do, and we are seeing a growth in that sector that's quite encouraging for us. Of course, globally, the awareness of hearing stories from different cultures, specifically with the Black Lives Matter movement, has become a real flashpoint and inflection point for the culture, for general, I think Western culture especially is taking note of the fact that we've had a very singular voice coming out of Hollywood for the last 100 years, and that bringing voices from different parts of the world is going to be a big part of how we build empathy with other cultures. So it's exciting to be able to have this really inviting, encouraging, and receptive business community in Ireland. We're excited with the culture there, the artistic development, the people that we can access, as well as the access to the rest of the EU. But in the future, we'd love to see how we can bring Irish stories in the same way that we bring African stories to the world, and to help bridge that cultural division that we all kind of have, because we build empathy through stories and through hearing other people's stories. So yeah, that's basically where we are at the moment. It is still early days, but every sign is looking really encouraging. So we're thrilled with the opportunity ahead.
Brilliant, Stuart. Thanks so much. I think, yeah, it's great to hear, you know, that success story, and, you know, amidst this streaming and Netflix boom, it's brilliant that you guys are actually still able to operate. Probably one of the few parts of the entertainment sector that are actually able to deliver now, you know, when you can't obviously do live shows or go filming like outside and things. So it's really encouraging to hear that, you know, you guys can work remotely and actually deliver content that people are all over now loving it. So I'd just like everybody just to know that your content is up on Showmax. I think they can access it there. I don't know, is there any other place you can access your full content?
It's Showmax has pretty much taken all the licensing for everything. So everything we've done is on Showmax. It can be it's on iTunes and other VOD services, but Showmax is worth the 1 month subscription to get it all, and or do the trial. But it's all there.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so I'd encourage everybody to check it out on Showmax, like, especially, like I was saying, some of the Julia Donaldson stuff. My kids absolutely love them. So thanks, Stuart, and I wish you great success in the future, and especially with the Irish venture. And hopefully we'll meet in person someday and you get to meet the Irish network, and maybe Frank can do you a deal on the Cape Town membership down there, seeing as you're actually based near himself. So thank you, Stuart, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Great, thanks very much.
So next I'd like to then introduce Sam MacDonald. So he's expanding his business in the opposite direction to Stuart. So he is expanding into South Africa by exporting from Ireland Ishkabaha, so whiskey, into the country. But obviously it's slightly bad timing given the alcohol ban. But Sam is a bit of an optimist anyway, so seeing it as a time to take stock and actually well, let him get into it. He's a whiskey expert and global brand ambassador for Republic of Whiskey, and they are a small batch whiskey blender based out of Belfast. So Sam, we're very excited to try out your product, but hopefully the ban will be lifted soon. We can all, you know, you can get it out here and we can start playing around with it as such. So if you could tell us a little bit more about your expansion into South Africa, and then a bit about the taste for Irish whiskey in this country, because it seems like it's going through, well, was anyway, going through a booming period. I don't think that's going to end by, if not, maybe the demand is going to spike even higher once the lockdown is lifted. So can't wait to hear more about your whiskey. So Sam, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah, so it is an interesting time, obviously, for the whiskey as a whole. Being no different. I think, like, I suppose I'll talk a little bit about maybe our brand and my experiences doing business in South Africa, but I think in terms of kind of like globally what's happening in the drinks industry, we're definitely about to experience maybe a territory that's not unknown, because you know, we've had some hiccups, you know, in history before. I think it's definitely going to be something that's going to prove some challenges. I think in terms of obviously the alcohol ban that happened in South Africa, it's definitely given us a chance to kind of take a breath and sort of, you know, think about where we can go in the country. But I think Irish whiskey in particular is a very adaptive industry, largely for long reasons. One, because, you know, we've got a name of a country to do it, so people sought after liquid, but also because by nature, you know, we're a smaller producer with a big name, which makes us very adaptive in terms of the way that we can do business. And that's a big, and it's something that's different in terms of, like, you know, if you were to sort of list the biggest countries, the most famous countries for producing whiskey, Ireland is relatively small. We don't actually produce a lot of liquid, but you know, what we do produce is, as I say, very, very popular, very sought after. And I think that's going to prove very successful going forward. South Africa, it was always on our list of places that, that we wanted to engage with. I mean, South Africa, is number 7 in the world in terms of global. I guess we'll see quite soon where that's going to fit in after all of this is over. But I mean, South Africa is a big market for Irish whiskey. But in terms of sort of like what that means, like the United States of America is still by far the biggest consumer of Irish whiskey. And when I say by far, like, it constitutes something like, 70 to 80% of all Irish whiskey that's drunk in the world is drunk in the United States. So South Africa is very important, but what is very attractive about the country is that there's a really healthy on-trade in South Africa. So people tend to drink out, which is very attractive for smaller brands like us. So I mean, Republic of Whiskey, we're an independent company. So, for us, we don't have the humongous marketing budgets that some of the big corporate brands have. But what we try to do is we try to be very flexible, very mobile. And for us, being able to engage with the consumer as much as possible is a huge part of our business. I mean, I was taught by the Teeling family, who are quite famous in Ireland, really how to kind of promote whiskey. And as they said to me from the beginning, that shoe leather sells whiskey. And for me, that's always been the case. So in terms of getting liquid on lips and getting people to actually try our brands, I mean, we're very proud of the liquid that we produce, but we produce it in very, very small quantities. So for us, engaging with the customer is a major part of what we do. And in South Africa, that was something that from the very beginning seemed like it was something that was always going to be possible. Like in a lot of countries, the retail market is king. So unless you're dealing with the big supermarkets and stuff like that, you're really not going to have much of a chance. Whereas in South Africa, when I started talking to distributors in the country, and I had some really great experiences talking to some wonderful, wonderful distributors in South Africa, and wholesalers, very, very positive conversations, which is really refreshing, when you're trying to sell people something. And the thing that kind of came across all the time was, they were conversing with me about things like the tavern market in South Africa, and the importance of actually engaging with sort of like taverns, the shebeens and stuff like that, and all these kind of, unusual, sources of where you might actually be promoting your product. And for us, it was interesting because it was all about actually how you're going to be engaging with customers, the different demographics that were important in South Africa. And like for us, it was a very, very refreshing conversation, and it really helped us like actually focus our product and think about how we might be able to market our product. Now it's very early days for us in South Africa. We're just going into the country now, but we're very, very positive about what's on the cards for us in South Africa. So it's really, really good. Yeah. So well, like as I said, we're really good about it. And I mean, in terms of being a smaller producer in Ireland, for us, really important is that we're cooperating with other Irish brands and other Irish whiskey brands. So for us, it's kind of going in as a national entity, and working with each other and cooperating with one another to really promote Irish whiskey as a category of drink. So it's good. Yeah.
That's brilliant, Sam. Thanks so much. I think, there's an exciting future ahead in South Africa once you can get going. So hopefully, once this prohibition is gone, then we can get your name out there. You can, start moving your product here. I think it's a very exciting market. And like you said, it's a bit different to a lot of countries. Thanks a million. I look forward to engaging with you again, because I think this is a little taster for everybody, pardon the pun, of what we're going to see in the future from Republic of Whiskey. So let's watch this space, and let's see you soon, Sam. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
So now over to Frank in Cape Town, who's going to give us an update on what they're up to, and then introduce some of his members, and then he'll close the session. So we're slightly over time. Sorry, that's my fault. But Frank, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Johnny. Okay, I am watching the clock here. We're on the clock a bit, so I'll run through very quickly. I just jotted down some thoughts. some macro thoughts on the Irish in South Africa and the Irish generally abroad, and then some micro thoughts on BISA and BISA's role. Quickly, I have 6 points on each. The first point, the Irish play a major role all over the world. Our diaspora is legendary and our influence is exceptional. Secondly, we've played a very important role through our missionaries in Africa over several decades, in education particularly, and also in fighting famine. Thirdly, the needs of Africa, South Africa now, are all too familiar to many Irish people who were forced to leave our shores in the 60s, 70s and 80s. The unemployed, the hungry, the sad, the disadvantaged. That's all changed now. We're no longer the poor neighbour. Fourthly, how did we do it? And how can we work with people in South Africa and other African countries to bring about much needed sustainable change? Fifthly, organisations such as BISA, Enterprise Ireland, the Department of Foreign Affairs and many more are here to help to do just that. We need to open doors, provide information, have dialogue, do planning, especially implementation, entrepreneurship and working with respect, honesty and integrity. Sixth point, we need to work together as a community, as the Irish community, with vision, open minds and bring our experience in effective change delivery, working in partnership with local organisations, businesses and government. It's a win-win opportunity for both countries. Moving on quickly onto BISA itself, I believe we're on a new stage of development in what BISA can do. Point number one, I want to make it an efficient organisation with clear goals and strategies. Secondly, we want to build a solid interactive membership base. Thirdly, we want to provide a professional, valuable service to our members. Fourthly, we want to keep our members informed of important, relevant business and community developments. Fifthly, we want to open up pathways for growth to our members, to new members, and to other business people in South Africa. Finally, my last point of the two lots, we need to provide a stable business and social platform where members can support each other and interact comfortably together to their mutual benefit of Irish and South African people. So that's my thoughts on the macro scene for business and on the micro scene for BISA. I'm conscious of time, so I'm not going to dwell. I'm going to move on, and I want to introduce John McGrath, our first speaker from Cape Town. I met John a few years ago. He's been in Cape Town for quite a while now. He's originally from Waterford and was a neighbour of mine because I grew up and went to school in New Ross, which borders on Waterford. He came through hard times in Ireland and left because of the last crash in Ireland. He's an amazing entrepreneur. He's a famous strongman. He's a motivational speaker. He had 4 gyms before the virus came and hit him another shot, but he's a fighter. One of his gyms is in Val de Vie, and he's also a high performance trainer. So over to John McGrath, tell his own story. Amazing man. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Frank, for the intro. Guys, yeah, I'm from County Waterford. Sport was my life. I guess in a large way still is. I ended up rowing for Ireland internationally and fought for Ireland in kickboxing. Had a few 5 different black belts in 5 different styles. And since I came to South Africa, I've worked with Olympic medal winners, gold medal winners, more famously with an athlete called Luva Manyanga, who was a tick addict from the township outside Paarl here, who I more or less trained every day for about 1.5 years, and he became an Olympic silver medalist and ultimately a world champion. That's a story that sort of captured the imagination, particularly of the Irish press and I guess world press. And I work as a high performance coach. I've got a gym here in Val de Vie where I work as a physical high performance coach, but also I suppose the important aspect of that as well as mental. You know, the mental role plays a huge. The mind is the athlete, the body is merely the tool. So I work with individuals, literally from the ballpark to the boardroom. I work with individuals, each one to bring about their highest potential. You know, that would be, at the moment, was health ever more important? What does that look like for you? Financial freedom, your perfect self-expression, and to get each individual to be able to claim their highest, to reach their highest potential in whatever they're here to do. I work with companies such as Adidas, Tencent Africa, many other companies as well, such as Sanlam here in South Africa. Also have a foundation here, like Frank, just outside Paarl here, also hoping to go into the Cape Flats with it. And it's called the Emerald Foundation, funny enough. And the Emerald Foundation exists for the upliftment of South African youth through the development of sport. In a nutshell, we work in the schools in the morning, and we have gyms that we go to in the afternoon, where people get a space where they can come, where they can actualize their real potential. A lot of people sort of cherry pick people out of the townships, which is okay, that's fine, you know, but you don't get to change the township unless you work with the people in the township. And that's one thing we've been able to do. We've got amazing, incredibly articulate, intelligent people that we work with in the township, both in school, both learners and people who've left as young adults. And there's something very proud of being able to do that kind of work. So that's a big passion of mine. I think it was Gandhi said, to ignore poverty is just as bad as to cause poverty. And, you know, I suppose that's something in the Irish psyche that we all grew up with, and it's something that we don't easily do, ignore that, and that's a huge passion for me. So that's the kind of work that I do, guys, and yeah, very nice to be here. I'm gonna leave it at that. I sense we're still trying to get back on track, so I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, John. That was great. Motivational, as I said. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Less than I would have expected. Well done.
Thank
Great
you.
to hear from you, always.
Thank
Okay,
you.
without, I need to move on quickly to Dianne, our next speaker. Dianne, are you here, I hope? Dianne Cameron Parker. Dianne has been living in Cape Town for a long time. She's involved for quite some time. She's an entrepreneur. She's involved in a construction business called Solid, where she does construction and interior design, and has been very successful in running that business for quite a number of years. It's a business that's also very badly hit by the COVID-19. Dianne took quite a turn then because from Solid she went to Liquid, and she set up a company called Liquid Safari, which is involved in sending she's sending MCC, quality MCC, to Irish markets. MCC has never been introduced to Ireland before, so without further ado, I'll send you over to Dianne to tell you her story. Thanks, Dianne.
Thanks, Frank. Hi, everybody. Thanks for giving me 5 minutes. If it's okay, I'm going to share my screen. I did some slides. Can everybody see? Yeah? Yes. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to go back. Start from the beginning. Okay, so as Frank said, Solid has been in operation for 11 years now. I studied construction project management at college, and when we moved here, there was a gap in the market for supplying and installing architectural finishes to the high-end residential and hospitality and commercial market, and it's done very well. It's had its ups and downs as well. We applied through the 2008, 2009, 2010 recession and gathered strength and came out the other side. And we were obviously put into hard lockdown for level 5 and level 4 because we don't do government contracts at all. So all our sites that we were busy with were basically abandoned. And when we went back in level 3, when we were able to get our permits and reopen and move our labour around, we had to service those projects, bring them to fulfillment first of all, and then try to find new work, which was the challenge. So we sat down, myself and my business partner of 7 years, he's a lovely German guy, and we did a SWOT analysis of the company. And we had to look at our strengths and our weaknesses of some of our lovely projects there, and see how we were going to move forward. So our strengths are definitely our established client base. So they're very loyal, and we know if they're busy, we're going to be busy. We also realized that aside from our core business, we were able to diversify, take on other aspects of a building tender, let our architects and our project managers know that we would be open to looking after those other services. products. And we are supplying to the industry, but we also have collaborations with local suppliers. So instead of tying even more money up on stock that wasn't moving very quickly, we went to local suppliers who are sitting on stock and negotiate better terms and favorable prices and try to move their stock for them in our projects as well. We've noticed an opportunity very recently in the last couple of weeks with the interest rates lowering. There's a bit of a movement in the mid to high end property market. So we're going to turn our attentions to that domestic house market for the time being. We're going to continue offering an expanded range of products and services, and we will complement our core business with that. And when the hospitality industry recovers, then we will gradually move back to focusing on that. Then about 2 years ago, coming up now, I had the opportunity to take MCC into the Irish market, or research taking MCC into the Irish market. We were looking at doing the very small batch boutique independent winemakers that create champagne from a variety of cultivars, not just the standard Chardonnay Pinot Noir blend that everybody's used to. And we worked quite hard at it. We did a trade show. Myself, got a business partner, also a female, who's in advertising and marketing. We did a trade show in Dublin last year. Frank came up from, I think he was, I can't remember where at the time, but he came to see me in Dublin at the show. And we had a successful show in terms of making connections. We had a lot of challenges when we got back to land the product at a price point that is still competitive. So we are the price point is between champagne and between Prosecco. And we've identified the market of the boutique independent buyers who are looking to put something different, something special, something quality on their shelves, and not just flood the market at the retail rate, where it would just be another fizz. It would be mixed in with many of options of bubbly on the shelves. So we had managed to get ourselves listed in a group of restaurants that are in Galway, Mayo, Limerick and Dublin. And we also had a retail outlet, boutique retail outlet ready to go, and our shipment was ready to leave at the end of March and didn't even leave the cellars. So that was a bit of an upset, but there was nothing we could do. The restaurants were closed there. The retail wasn't closed, but the restaurant was closed. We couldn't get our booze out. And so we sat on it. And then we'd never really intended for a local market quite so soon. We thought it might be fun at some point just to get some bubbly out on the market. And so having made these obligations and commitments to the producers, we felt obligated to try to move and sell the stock locally, because their plight is well known to everybody now within the industry, and who's not in the industry. The South African wine producers are suffering hugely. And so we came up with a little fun campaign, and we started marketing it to the Irish community and then further afield, and then we put ourselves onto a little online platform, and we started building up a database of people who are bubbly enthusiasts and want to have access to high quality MCC that is not available on the supermarket shelves here. You must go to the cellars to get it, and we were able to bring it to the door via online sales. We did another SWOT analysis. We looked at our strengths, and we became a registered brand ambassador of the MCC Association. We approached Wesgrow, and I've recently, just in the last day, completed their export advancement program, which I was lucky to be selected to take part in. And so we are now working with them on showcasing the category of MCC internationally. At the moment, they're hosting a lot of tastings, international tastings, where there's a room set up, say in Asia somewhere, and they send 10 different producers, wine producers, bottles, and the winemaker will do a tasting direct with them. So we have now involved MCC as a complete separate separate categories. So, and Wesgrow have been delighted to engage with us on that, and obviously it's a predominant, it is a Western Cape product of origin, and they're very proud of it too. Our weaknesses are going to be the global recurring lockdowns, and they keep happening, and a decline in international buyer interest because of investing in something that they can't guarantee has a market yet. But the opportunities that has come of this is established in the local market, and we are right behind the hashtags of support local, buy local, local is lekker, and really start trying to give some platform to the smaller wine producers who need this platform throughout the country. And I know I should wrap up, so you know, threats are the same as weaknesses, and yeah, and if you want some bubbly when it's ready to sell, we'll let you know. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dianne. So there we go, guys. That was a hectic hour. Thank you all for attending. Thank you very much to the ambassador for her wise words. For our speakers who brought us animation, entertainment, fitness, and then whiskey and bubbles. So there's a lot to go for there. Hopefully we'll get the chance to all meet up together and enjoy all of those together in the not too distant future. So look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks so much, Johnny, for helping and hosting this and for doing it together. It's been great fun. Thanks, everybody. Final word, Johnny?
Yeah, I'd just like to say the same thing. Thanks, everybody, Frank, and look forward to doing the next one. And
Sure.
yeah, that was action-packed, was brilliant. And to see you all again soon.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.